We have got a rally on our hands this morning on this U.S.-China trade deal that was just announced. As you can see, Dow is up 925, NASDAQ up 767, S&P up 162. The White House in Beijing agreeing to suspend most tariffs for 90 days. Major breakthrough during trade talks that were held in Geneva over the weekend. Both countries cutting their duties from 125% to just 10%. And they're organizing further discussions. A 20% tariff on Chinese imports relating to fentanyl will remain in place. The tariff revisions imposed by May 14th. So it's going to be very soon. Let's bring in Andersen Capital Management Chief Investment Officer Peter Andersen. And Peter, your reaction to this news this morning?
Well, it's not just a trade deal. I think it's a signal to global markets. And I'm delighted with the progress that the administration has made. I think the thing that's most striking to me is what I would call the elegant simplicity of the deal. You know, you highlighted it. It's in about 3 bullet points. I think we're all suffering from tariff exhaustion in terms of trying to figure out all this stuff. And to have results like this in the midst of this confusion, I think is a fantastic thing, and certainly is a signal to markets. And it's probably just the beginning. You know, we're not out of the woods yet. We've got a clearer path, right? But the fact that the markets are reacting this way shows you the pent-up enthusiasm for getting deals done and moving on from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and Mike Lee, clarity. That is the big word that the markets have needed clarity with all of this, because, you know, from that big board that was put up in the Rose Garden with all the different countries and all the different numbers. Jump in, Mike.
Look, I think the street's been wrong on this, like almost from the start. I think it was the largest overreaction of my entire career. I did think it would take a little bit longer to work this out. But I think the speed with which we're seeing some sort of resolution, it's not final resolution, but close to final resolution. And with so many institutional investors underinvested, I think this rally could really take off from here. What say you, Peter?
I couldn't agree more. You know, usually I disagree with a lot of people, but the fact that this is so much clearer, and as you said, we really haven't suffered for a long period of time. It's been just slightly over a month. The speed at which this is happening is impressive. But also, I think that a lot of investors have been sitting on the sideline waiting for some signs of resolution. And going into the weekend, I didn't think we were going to have this much progress. I thought that there was going to be, you know, setting the table for many future discussions. But to me, it seems like we're probably, dare I say, halfway through this. And the fact that both parties are showing optimism on this, both parties, not just ours, is very impressive.
Liz Peek's on set. She's got a question for you.
Peter, good morning. There's a lot of economic data coming out this week. How do you think investors are going to look at that? In other words, the CPI, PPI, all this kind of thing, retail sales, isn't that all backward looking now in the context of this big news?
It absolutely is. You know, normally we hang our lifetimes on that kind of data, but I would say for the past 6 weeks or so, all of that data has been put on the sidelines, mainly because we didn't know with clarity what's happening going forward. So most investors, I think, are probably going to deeply discount those backward-looking numbers and focusing more on the calculus of these tariffs. And dare I also say this, that we have been spending so much time thinking about how these tariffs would impact everything, but it's extremely complicated to do that, to play out any kind of mathematical economic scenario. Now I think that we have the table cleared a bit, and the analysis will be a lot simpler. Not easy, but just simpler than how highly complex it was going to be.
Yeah, but at the same time, and Liz mentioned this last segment, and I agree that, you know, but 90 days is just 90 days. 90 days can come and go. I mean, that's we need something permanent. This needs to be a permanent trade deal. Are you optimistic we're going to have that?
Well, certainly a ceasefire doesn't guarantee an end of a war, and I think that's what we're looking for. So, of course, you have to be cautious about this. But the fact that we are doing this with a communistic country and that we have gotten this kind of clarity so far, I think is a very positive deal. Now, of course, I do worry that they will not follow through with their promises So, as I said, we've got a clearer path in the woods, but we're certainly not out of it yet.
Well, we're still going to be looking at those Walmart earnings. But again, to your point, now a lot of this might be backward looking. Peter Andersen, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right.